Hello, it's time for a new video, and I've decided because of my age, yeah, I'm 70 now, I'd show an appreciation for some of the musical artists that have touched me throughout my life, and I'm going to refer to those that have passed on this year. And I'm going to do a video every 3 months. So this first one is going to look at those that passed on from January 2024 to the end of March. And there's quite a few. Some have had more of an impact than others. I haven't obviously chosen musicians that I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to get onto it with my selections for January now. And so bear with me. And for those on Rumble, at the end of each appreciation, there will be a song or possibly two for you to consider these people that have enriched my life and many others. Right, my first selection then on this appreciation of those that have passed on. Uh, Melanie and Saka Sherkowski. She passed on in January at the age of 76. And of course, she was known as Melanie, an American singer songwriter, widely known for her global hit Brand New Key. And you'll get to listen to that if you're on Rumble at the end. If you're only on YouTube, I'll leave a link to that. That was a particularly big hit for her, though she had others. She covered Ruby Tuesday, the Rolling Stones song in 76. That was quite a big hit. And also her breakthrough, which I'm not so familiar, was Lay Down It and Candles in the Rain. And that was inspired by her experience of performing at the 1960 Woodstock Festival. So she's got quite a sort of reputation, really. Early life, she was raised in Queens, New York City. Her father was a Ukrainian immigrant, and her mother was a jazz singer and was of Italian extraction. Melanie made her first public singing appearance at the ripe old age of 4. In the 1960s, Melanie started performing at the Inkwell, a coffee house in the West End section of Long Branch in Queens. She began singing in folk clubs in Greenwich Village and signed her first recording contract with Columbia Records and released 2 singles on the label, only in the US though. And she subsequently signed for Buddha Records and found her first chart success in Europe in 1969 with Bobo's Party, which reached #1 in France. Popularity in Europe resulted in performances on European television shows such as Beat Club in West Germany. Lots of good videos from that particular TV club. There's a channel on YouTube, and I'll try and get you the link for that. Her debut album received positive reviews from Billboard, and they described her voice as wise beyond her years, and said her non-conformist approach to the selections on the LP make her a new talent to be reckoned with. She was one of only 3 solo female artists performing at the Woodstock Festival in '69, and her first hit song, Lay Down Candles in the Rain, was inspired by the audience at Woodstock lighting candles during her set, as well as being influenced by her following of Indian spiritual master Meher Baba. I think something in common there with Pete Townsend. It was a big hit anyway. And then her first top 10 hit in America was Lay Down, which peaked at #6 in the Billboard charts. Her later hits included that Ruby Tuesday cover, and she was certainly on the rise. She had her biggest American hit on the Neighborhood label with that novelty sounding 1972 song, which was a #1 hit, Brand New Key. Brand New Key sold over 3 million copies worldwide and was also featured in the 1970 movie Boogie Nights. When she first released it, however, it was banned by some radio stations because some inferred so-called sexual innuendo in the lyrics. God knows why, but I guess it's a key and a lock. Oh, wow. Thank goodness things have moved on. She did actually acknowledge the possibility of it being given an unintended sexual innuendo. She said, I wrote Brand New Key in about 15 minutes one night. I thought it was cute, a kind of old 30s tune. I guess a key and a lock have always been Freudian symbols, and pretty obvious ones at that. And she went on to explain that when she wrote it, there was none of that hanky panky in her thoughts. And finally, she performed at the Isle of Wight Festival, held on the 26th to the 30th of August in 1970. And at the festival, she was introduced by one Keith Moon and received a standing ovation. In 1971, she was the artist who also sang to herald the start of the summer solstice at Glastonbury Fair, later called the Glastonbury Festival. So here we are. That's Melanie. Sad that she's gone. And now for you, all you Rumble listeners, let's have that Brand New Key, shall we? After that rather lengthy description of Melanie, I'll try and speed things up a bit. My second passing musician is Wayne Kramer, and he died on the February 2nd, 2024. And he was an American guitarist, singer, songwriter, producer, and film and television composer. Wayne Kramer, for me, came to prominence in that 1960s Detroit rock band as a lead guitarist called the MC5, and I owned and possessed the album Back in the USA. This was really the innovator that led to punk further on, I would guess. And he, alongside Fred Sonic Smith, who later joined Hattie Smith, I think he also married her. No, maybe not. And vocalist Rob Tyner, bassist Michael Davis, and drummer Dennis Thompson. And they kicked out a number of albums which are now regarded as classic. They had a very powerful live performance and were considered quite left wing at the time. The group actually broke up amid government harassment and through poverty, and of course that typical thing for the time, drug abuse. Now, Kramer, he had quite a few years out with battling his drug addiction before returning to active recording in the 90s. And he also founded the independent initiative, Jail Guitar Doors, which he's quite famous for in helping those who are both incarcerated and are also subject to addiction. In 1967, the MC side was designated the home band at Detroit's famous Grand Ballroom. And so a pretty infamous artist and band, it has to be said. After spells in prison, Kramer returned, had a very long career recording music for others, and became very famous, particularly on the New York scene. And I'll be selecting an album from Back in the USA, a couple of tracks because they're very short, for you Rumble viewers. My third appreciation then is one Aston Barrett. Now, Aston Barrett came from Jamaica, and he was in his first band was the Upsetters, And that was the name given to the house band for Jamaican reggae producer, the famous Lee Scratch Perry. And the name of the band came from Perry's nickname of Upsetter after his song "I Am the Upsetter." And it was an instrumental. And I do recall it because at the time in the UK, I was very much in the hippie tribe and constantly had to avoid the skinhead tribe, who adopted this song as their anthem. And so consequently, I was constantly having to dodge them. And it was, well, I can assure you, wasn't a pleasant event to get kicked with those steel cap boots that the skinheads used to wear. Anyway, so that's how I came about it. But I actually find that the song is now absolutely delightful. And so let's just talk a little bit more about it. So the song that was at the top of the charts at the time that I was trying to avoid those kicks from skinheads was Return of Django. And it peaked at number 5 in 1969. I was 15 years of age. And he then moved on to bigger and more famous things. He became part of the Wailers, who later became Bob Marley and the Wailers. And so a very significant event in reggae history, I would say. And so his passing is worth remembering. And I'm going to let you, on Rumble, get into Return of Django. And I'll try to avoid the memories. To know about Bob Marley before we get to the music. He appeared on Catch a Fire in 1973 and the very famous single I Shot the Sheriff. And also, I think he was also around with regard to Exodus. So, very, very important musician in reggae music. The fourth musician that sadly passed, he passed in February of this year, is Bobby Tench, aged 79. And he was a vocalist, guitarist, and sideman, songwriter, and arranger. And he's best known really for his work with Freddie King, Van Morrison, a member of Jeff Beck's group, Humble Pie, and the band that I was heavily into, the Streetwalkers. They were a band out of Leicester, and he was involved in the early albums featuring the Leicester duo of Roger Chapman and Charlie Whitney. And you will get to watch a video of a song that came off one of their albums, and you'll see Tench on real guitar. Anyway, as I say, he also became a founder member of Hummingbird, but I moved on at that stage. And so, an artist that I think was very impactful in those bands. So, in reference to recording material, he definitely cropped up as a full-time member on Red Card, which was their third album, and I believe he was also on the first Streetwalkers, Roger Chapman, Charlie Whitney solo, and possibly the follow-up to that. And the title of that escapes me at the moment. Anyway, Bobby Tench, sadly lost in February of this year. Moving on to March now, and the first one, Brick Turner. He was a drummer, died at a very young age of 57 with the band Blackberry Smoke, an American country rock band formed in Atlanta, Georgia in 2000. And actually, his brother, Richard, was the bass player with that band as well. Anyway, I haven't really had much of an opportunity to listen to this band, but I did coincidentally get to hear their latest. And it was released in March, just weeks before Brick's passing. And this band have released 8 albums and eight studio albums and two live albums. Okay, so Brick Turner, drummer with Blackberry Smoke. And I've got one track off that new album for you to listen to, of course, if you're on Rumble. Next, to lose their life in March, a very famous musician, Carl Wallinger, a Welsh musician, songwriter, and record producer, best known for leading the band World Party and for his mid 80s membership of the Waterboys, contributing in particular to the arrangement and recording of their hit single, The Whole of the Moon. He was a multi instrumentalist, which enabled him to demo and record the bulk of World Party material as a one man band. Although he was right handed, he actually played the right handed guitar upside down, left handed. And, well, I didn't actually see them, but I'd like to have witnessed that. Carl was very much influenced by the music of the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, and the Kinks. Also, Buddy Holly and Motown music. He was classically trained as a pianist from the age of 9 and also learnt to play the oboe. He won a music scholarship at the very famous school, Charterhouse, where all those Genesis guys attended. Accordingly, a guitarist was wanted for Mike Scott's Waterboys, and Wallinger got in touch, and that, of course, was the beginning of the Waterboys' success. And he was basically used as a keyboard player, and he basically was involved in the first 3 albums, all of which I've got. Significantly contributed to the band's big music sound, and on that third album, This Is the Sea, he had a standout involvement. Although, unfortunately, on the world tour of which promoted that album, he became more and more aware of his own musical ambitions, which were bringing him into conflict with Mike Scott. And so he left at the end of 1985 and went solo. World Party began as a solo studio project with Wallinger as that one-man band. But it did explore rock, pop, folk, and funk ideas, plus elements of other genres. And the band released 5 albums, the first of which I did get, Private Revolution, in 1987. His final offering in 2000 was called Dumbing Up. But the 1990s release, Goodbye Jumbo, is regarded as his masterpiece. It's a bit of a restoration of 60s pop values, consolidating Wallinger's pop interest into a more organic live band sound while maintaining his diversity of approach. It was voted Album of the Year by the Q magazine and was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Alternative Music Performance in the US. And it produced 2 hit singles, Way Down Now and Put the Message in the Box. And now I'm going to put on Way Down Now alongside Bang the Drum. 2 selections from Wallinger, one when he was in the Waterboys and one in World Party. So enjoy these. So next one up, I think this is the 7th musician on this video, is Steve Harley. He died at the age of 73. Of course, Steve Harley, synonymous with the band Cockney Rebel. They evolved from Cockney Rebel to Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. English singer-songwriter and frontman of the band, and had some enormous hits in the mid-70s, Judy Teen, Mr. Soft, and probably their most famous, Make Me Smile, Come Up and See Me. Born in 1951 in Deptford in London, his father was a milkman and his mother was a semi-professional jazz singer. He survived a life-threatening polio condition early on at the age of 2, which made it necessary for him to have a number of surgeries. Once he was recovering from his last at 12 years of age, he was introduced to the poetry of T.S. Eliot, D.H. Lawrence, and the prose of John Steinbeck, Virginia Woolf, and Ernest Hemingway. He also started to get into the music of Bob Dylan, and this pointed him really to a future career involving words and music. From the age of 9, Harley took classical viola lessons and he played at his grammar school orchestra. At 10, he started to learn the guitar after his parents had given him a nylon string Spanish guitar for Christmas. And he also started to write his own songs. His musical career started in 1971, and he played in bars and clubs, mainly at folk venues, and they were all open mic nights. He formed the Rebel in 72, and Mickey Most discovered the band in a London nightclub, the Speakeasy, and offered them their first contract with RAK, which became part of EMI Records. And they got a 3-album deal. Their debut, The Human Menagerie, produced by Neil Harrison, came out in 1973. But the famous Make Me Smile was released later in 1975 from the band's third studio album, The Best Years of Our Lives. And the song was written by Harley and Alan Parsons. Yeah, that's guy, Alan Parsons' project. I never knew that. That song reached number 1 in the UK charts in February 1975. Now, he continued his musical career for a number of years, released 12 albums, and the last, Uncovered, came out in 2022. But he acts 2020, sorry, and he continued touring until July 2022. And then, unfortunately, he was diagnosed with cancer. Okay, so let's have that single then by Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. All you English listeners will know this one. So the last one then in this 3-month reflection on those that have passed is Jimmy Hastings. He died at the ripe old age of 85, and he was a British musician associated with the Canterbury scene and played sax, flute and clarinet. And he popped up playing, he started playing the sax when he was 16 years of age after having started playing piano. He auditioned unsuccessfully to play tenor with Leslie Thorpe's band at the Beach Ballroom in Aberdeen, and later with Humphrey Lyttelton. But he then worked as a musician on ships. After that, he got his break. He played with his brother Pye Hastings in Caravan, and latterly he moved on to Soft Machine, Hatfield in the North, National Health, and also contributed to work with Brian Ferry, Trapeze, and Chris Squire. He features on 9 Caravan albums, including their debut in 1968. And there will be a selection from that, Love Song with Flute, for those Rumble viewers. I also want to note that he did feature on an album that I absolutely love. It's the 3rd album by Soft Machine, double album, 1970 that came out. And he's featured on track 2 and 4. That album has 4 tracks. Each track is on one side. And he played flute and soprano sax on that. So I've got to have a mention to him. And as I say, I will select one song from the debut, Caravan. With regard to Soft Machine, I will try and edit a section of music from probably Slightly All the Time. Okay, so that completes my video in memorial for those that have passed between January and March the 31st. There will be 2 or 3 others assuming that I don't pass before. Thanks for listening.